Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Liv. In today's video, I want to expand on a topic that I introduced in my previous video. I can't fit all the details into one video. So my hope is that as I continue breaking this down, you will be able to connect the pieces and see the full picture of what's happening in our country. Recently, someone commented saying that white Europeans came to America and automatically had citizenship, and therefore everyone born on American soil automatically had birthright citizenship. I believe many people think this, but it's absolutely not true. In my video titled Original American Birthright, I explained that no one, not the white Europeans, not the black Africans, not the indigenous people, had automatic American citizenship during the 13 colonies. Why? Because we were all subjects of the British Crown. Even if a child was born here, that child was still legally a British subject because their parents were under the jurisdiction, allegiance, and authority of Britain. And that is exactly why the phrase subjects to the jurisdiction thereof was added to the 14th Amendment. When the framer later wrote the 14th Amendment, they gave foundational Black Americans and their descendants the exact same protection they had created for themselves in the very beginning, back in the Naturalization Act of 1790, before birthright citizenship even exists. So when America broke away from the British Crown, the founders intentionally rejected British common law citizenship, which was based on just soil citizenship by birth under the king's authority. They wanted no American, not even themselves, to ever be tied back to the crown's legal power in any political, legal, or spiritual way. It has always meant exclusive allegiance, not simply being born on the soil. America did not suddenly invent this principle. It has been here from the beginning. We did not become Americans until we won the Revolutionary War and separated from Britain to form our own nation with its own laws, government, and citizenship structure. So, no, birthright citizenship was never meant to be automatic. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof means something. This phrase is key. Why? Because it excludes groups who were under foreign allegiance, were not fully under U.S. law, or owed loyalty to another government. Birthright citizenship was always meant to be exclusive, not universal. It is not racist to protect your nation and its inheritance from people who might try to undermine it. Every nation does this, including the countries many immigrants come from. It's common sense. They bank on Americans being stupid. We are not stupid. They are liars. What is dangerous is when we allow people, especially immigrants, into positions of power who do not fully respect the law and boundaries that our ancestors put in place to protect us. Many of these individuals come here and weaponize Americans' painful history, as I've said, of racism to guilt trip our citizens, manipulate our politics, and push open borders to weaken our national identity. Meanwhile, some Americans who are still accusing other Americans of racism are the very people who betrayed this nation historically, choosing skin color over principle, loyalty, truth, and morality. If your loyalty is based on skin color instead of moral character, you are the problem. Why I tell immigrants to stay out of our internal affairs? I said it before and I'll repeat it. Anti American immigrants need to stay out of our internal affairs, stay out of our country's business. Illegal immigrants do not get to come to America and lecture us about racism. They are not part of our historical struggle. They did not live through our civil rights battle, and they are not the ones who paid the price or made the sacrifices. Our country has been working toward the process of healing for generations. They do not get to come here and interrupt that. And they certainly do not get to use our history to justify breaking our laws. Foreigners do not get to rewrite our identity, our policies, or our national boundaries. From my observation and research, America has been striving to correct the wrongs done to Black Americans through amendments, legislations, and civil rights protections. America has also been working to address injustice against Native Americans. They're the only group recognized as sovereign nations within the United States and negotiates nation to nation. Immigrants and their descendants have a legal and fair pathway to become American citizens through the naturalization process. Is everything perfect? No. Many Native and Black Americans still feel that they have not been fully treated justly, and those feelings deserve respect. But none of that gives outsiders the right to judge our internal struggles, lecture us about our past, weaponize our history for their political gain, or demand to rewrite our laws based on conflicts that they were never part of. That is where the line is drawn. Now, the United States versus Wong Kim Ark case in 1888 is the source of the problem. It opened the floodgates for scammers and abusers. This case contradicts itself on multiple levels. One, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. Yes, 1882 explicitly banned all Chinese immigrants from becoming U.S. citizens. Two, they were barred from naturalizations and were not recognized fully under U.S. jurisdiction. Number three, the act also included a provision that hereafter no state court or court of the United States shall admit Chinese people to citizenship. Explain that. Explain that. In other words, Chinese residents, even those domiciled legally in the US, were ineligible for naturalization under the federal law for their race and or their nationality. Even long residing Chinese immigrants could not become US citizens under the law until the repeal. The Repeal Act wasn't until 1943 and it still had restrictions. And four, Wong Kim Ark's parents were subjects of the Emperor of China, meaning they owed allegiance to a foreign power. The judges ignored the jurisdiction clause. They forced English common law, just saw, onto an American system that never used it. What makes the Wong Kim Ark decision so morally wrong is not just the legal error, it is the spiritual and historical violation behind it. When the Supreme Court imported English just soil into American law, they just didn't misinterpret the Constitution. They tied us back into the very system our ancestors fought and bled to escape. America went to war so we could no longer be subjects of the British crown. Our ancestors died fighting for the right to have our own citizenship, write our own laws, establish our own constitution, and build a nation grounded in allegiance, not automatic subjecthood. The founders deliberately rejected British common law, birthright, subjectship. They created a new system, an American system, where citizenship came from allegiance and consent, not simply being born on soil controlled by another power. But in Wong Kim Ark, the court reversed that. They brought back the same British doctrine we fought to escape, the same doctrine that kept us under another nation's rule for generations. That is why spiritually and morally this ruling feels so wrong because it dishonors the sacrifice of the very people who fought so that we could be a sovereign nation with sovereign laws. It resurrected a foreign rule that our ancestors died defeating, and it placed our citizenship back under a principle that was never meant to govern us again. I believe this was intentional, and I will tell you why. When I speak on this, I'm speaking from my spirit, from conviction, from what I know is true. The courts had no right to bring back a system our ancestors died to get out from under. And we have every right, morally, historically, and spiritually, to challenge that because it is back in the courts in present day. I am telling you, the founders rejected just soil. The original meaning of American birthright citizenship was always about allegiance, not just being physically born here. And look at what happened when that ruling took over. It opened a loophole that is now being abused by millions who enter illegally just to have children on American soil. That ruling was morally wrong, historically wrong, and legally inconsistent. And something else we have to talk about is how many immigrants come here and immediately use religion as a shield for immoral, corrupt, or self-serving behaviors. They claim faith, but their action don't line up with anything holy. And then they have the audacity to accuse loyal, lineage Black and white Americans whose ancestors built this nation of things that themselves are guilty of. We must protect our national lineage. America is our nationality. We have the right to decide who comes into our country and who becomes part of our national family. No more illegal immigrants, no more exploiting loopholes, no more weaponizing our history against us, no more globalist agendas. Our ancestors built this nation through trials, betrayal, sacrifice, war, and perseverance. And now, because of jealousy, greed, corruption, and misplaced loyalty, our borders are wide open and our country is being taken advantage of. No other country does this. You should ask yourself, why are we forced to? It is time to protect what our ancestors left us, and that begins with confronting Wong Kim Ark decision and restoring the original intent of birthright citizenship. So I want to leave you with a question as we move into the next video. What makes a person betray their own country? You must identify who your enemies are. When you understand the root of a problem, you can see how we arrive at the challenges we face today, and more importantly, how to resolve them. That's the core of what I'll be breaking down next week. Thank you all for joining. If you haven't already, I hope you'll consider subscribing, but I'll see you guys in the comments. Bye.